Welcome to the High School Wrestling Rule video series here on YouTube. My name's Alex Green. If you're new to my channel, thanks for stopping by. This is the High School Wrestling Rule video series I've been doing now. This is my third season doing it. And like I said, this is video number 45. Today is going to be a little bit change of pace for the High School Wrestling Rule video series. We're going to be covering a movie from the world of high school wrestling. But there's some things in that movie that needs to be addressed that has went on for 36 years now that needs to be covered. It needs to have the corrected information out there. That is the movie Vision Quest. Vision Quest is probably the best high school wrestling movie that has ever been made. I would just about put money on that. I'm not a betting man, but if I was, I would say Vision Quest is probably the best high school wrestling video that's ever been made. It tells such a great story. There's so much history behind it, and I'll get into that just in a second. But there's a few things about the movie that needs to be addressed. So let's hop right into it. This movie was filmed during the fall-winter of 1983, and it has Matthew Modine as the lead character, Loudon Swain. Just a quick synopsis of the movie. Released in 1985, Loudon Swain is a senior at Thompson High School in Spokane, Washington. He starts off the movie in the 190-pound weight class, but he's wanting to drop down to 168 pounds to wrestle defending state champion Ryan Shute from Hoover High School. And I can't think of two more generic sounding names for high schools than Thompson High School and Hoover High School. Be that as it may, the movie is about Loudon Swain's journey from 190 pounds, his life, all that, to the final match where he gets to wrestle Ryan Shute. Spoiler alert, but it has been 36 years. If you haven't seen it by now, I'm not really spoiling anything. But there's two main things about this movie, two wrestling rule things that I want to cover, and then there's some other little things that we'll go over just in a second. There are two main wrestling rule topics that I want to cover about this movie that this movie may have introduced people to high school wrestling and then not had any more dealings with it. Or maybe you watch it every year as a teen. Maybe, you wrestled in school and you watched it, or whatever the case is. There's a couple things that I want to cover and clear the air on. So, without further ado, put on your Thompson High School Letterman jacket. Let's do this. First, let's talk about the weight cutting aspect. Like I said, this movie was filmed in 1983, released in February 1985. Now, we all know wrestling was way different then than what it was now. This movie came out the year I was born. In fact, I'm 36. That'll tell you just how dated this movie is. But Loudon cuts from 190 pounds down 168. There is no way in this world, in today's wrestling environment with track wrestling and weight management and all that, that a wrestler will be able to cut down in just a few weeks from 190 pounds to 168. That would not happen. But just a few things Loudon goes through here. I got my little cheat sheet here, got my computer that I'm reading off of. Loudon Swain at high school, he passes out at his locker, take him to the nurse's station, get him checked out. He's, just cutting way too much weight. That's the reason why he passes out. He does have, there's only 4 bouts shown in the entire movie, and 2 involve Loudon Swain. 1 involves the Ryan Shute character, and then another match before Loudon wrestles. One of the matches that Loudon wrestles, he has some nosebleeds, and the referee, which I'll cover this in a second, that's the second part of it, the referee calls it a medical default. Now, back then, that may have been the way defaults or blood time had ended, was called, but nevertheless, that's what they call it. Swain's wrestling coach says he's down to 6% body fat. It doesn't show any body fat testing, so we're just going to take them for their poetic license and say that's accurate. So, there's no way, like I said, that a wrestler today would be able to cut that much weight in that short a time. It just would not happen. He or she would not be able to do that. And there's another part of this. I'm going to try to be as tactful as I can. Loudon brags about some male issues that he has to his, there's a woman that moves in with him and his dad. There's some circumstances that goes on there. You just need to watch the movie. I don't want to spoil it for you, but he brags about certain parts of his anatomy, doing certain things, and that, I guess, part of weight cutting, dieting, and all that kind of stuff. So that's all I'm going to say about that. You just need to watch the movie. This movie is like a PG rating. It's safe. There's no nudity. There's no anything like that. It's a great teen movie to watch. Just something about weight cutting that he likes to brag about. This movie introduced so many people to the song Lunatic Fringe by Red Ryder. If you don't play Lunatic Fringe at your wrestling meets, you are doing it wrong, my friend. That needs to be played at every high school, middle school, elementary wrestling meet sometime during the warm-ups or in the face-off or whatever. That song embodies high school wrestling. It's a great song, and you're probably hearing it right now in the background if YouTube doesn't get me with the copyright strike. So it's a great song. The actual video is a little weird for when the group put it out, but when you watch Loudon training and his warm-ups and all that, and you hear that he wrestled, you know what that song is. And it is an absolute, just sends your adrenaline through the roof, to use an old cliche. Another part of this movie that a lot of people get introduced to wrestling, I know I done it when I wrestled, and I don't mean to be offensive, that's just what we call it, was the Indian run, where you slap the mat and you jump on top of each other and you pile on, or you lay down at the end and you pile on. I think every practice that I had, we ended it with the Indian run. So again, not to be offensive to anybody, but that's just what it's called. And I think a lot of teams do that. They may call it something different now, but I guess if you grew up, in that era of wrestling, and this movie come out, your coach probably adopted it, picked it up, and you continue the tradition of doing that. But Lunatic Fringe by Red Ryder and the Indian Run are two high school wrestling staples in my opinion. Now to the part that I really want to get to is the officiating in this movie. Like I said, I was born in 1985, so some stuff may have changed, but in the movie, every time you see the referee has the wristbands on the wrong hand. And you're probably seeing a picture of it. I'm going to use the same picture again. But we know the green wristband goes on your right wrist. The red wristband goes on your left wrist. And in the movie, they've got it flipped. That may have changed from 1985 to when I started officiating in 2003. But nevertheless, the wristbands, as it stands today, are on the wrong hands. A lot of it is pretty accurate to the way high school wrestling is. Whenever we see the team weigh in, we see them line up with one team on the left, one team on the right. The referee calls up, 120 pounds. The visiting school steps on, then the home school steps on, and all down the line. We know we're supposed to do a random draw before weigh-in, see what weight we start at. And if it's a two-team duel, you can line wrestlers up like that and have them shoulder to shoulder. I need Thompson High School, I need your 113 pounds. Hoover High School, send up your 113. You go that way. So that is pretty accurate. Loudon does miss weight on his first attempt. He takes his underwear off. We know now you can't do that. You got to weigh in a singlet. 1985, you could weigh in naked. When I wrestled in the late 90s, early 2000s, you could weigh in naked. Thank God that changed. But he takes off his underwear, takes off his shirt, takes everything off, breathes out, and he hits 168. He's able to wrestle. Now to the match. The only real match that we get to see, like I said, there's 4 bouts shown. 3 of them are really quick. The one with Swain and Shoot goes up until almost the end of the third period. But if you're seeing here, they wrestle out of bounds. They get a throw, and the referee signals out of bounds, neutral. But when he comes back, he puts Loudon in the down position. Now we know that's bad time. I'm not sure if the wrestling advisor for the movie was sick that day or was on lunch break or whatever, but a good wrestling advisor should have stopped that and said, hey, now this is not, we need to, if you're going to have them down, you need to award a takedown. We need to start back neutral. We can't do that. So remember, if you go out of bounds with no control, you signal neutral, and you put wrestlers in the up-down position, referee position, that's going to be bad time. Now, I don't know if the movie wanted to go in that depth on it, but that is something that always drove me crazy about this movie, is they go out of bounds, should have been stopped for bad time. In real life, we know that green ankle bands and green colors represents home. red represents visitors. In the movie though, the scoreboard has the name of the mascots instead of home visitor. So the team that Loudon wrestles for, Thompson High School, has red singlets. The visiting team, Hoover High School, is yellow, so they have green green ankle bands. Not a big problem if you can customize the scoreboard to say that. It's not that big a deal as long as you hold up the right wristband with whatever singlet color, whatever color you're trying to signify to the score table. As long as you get that right, the scoreboard really isn't that big of a deal as long as the scorekeeper knows. Now we know in dual meets, we flip the disc before we have our captain's meeting. We flip the disc. Whoever wins, coach, you want odd or even, whatever. In going into the second period, the camera does not show, the movie does not show asking for choice. It just comes up with Loudon down. I don't know if the coach, if it's something that I guess they didn't think the normal person needed to know about, but just remember, you need to find out each period, coach up, down, neutral, defer, up, down, neutral, whichever second period, third period. But he doesn't, Loudon just goes straight to the down position. Then in the third period, referee pulls his disc out and says, son, do you want the choice? And then the other wrestler takes down. If you've not seen Vision Quest, you need to watch it. It's a great movie. It tells a great story. Like I said, it is the best high school wrestling movie that you will find. You can watch. It's safe. There's a few words, but nothing, to get up in arms about. Nothing you probably won't hear walking down the hallways of any school or at any wrestling meet or any practice room or locker room or whatever. So it's not end of the world. Great movie. Can't recommend it enough. I just wanted to clear the air on some of these referee mistakes or wrestling mistakes, if you will, that this movie shows. I know I-85, like I said, was a different time, but just wanted to update it for you guys that watch it. You need to go watch it, and if there's any Hollywood producers out there thinking about making a high school wrestling movie, you need to have me as your wrestling advisor. I would be a lot better and make a lot better movie than Vision Quest as far as the rules go. So until then, I know this was a little bit different, change of pace, but I just wanted to do this. I watched this movie last night, and I seen it, and I thought, I need to do this. So until next time, we'll see you guys on the mats.